Hey everybody, how's it going? I'm Nate Savage.
I'm Andrew Clark.
And we just finished a live lesson in the GuitarLessons.com Academy members area on finding strumming success. And we went over three main areas. The first one was technique, the second one was timing, and the third one was getting better at finding out how to figure out your favorite strumming patterns in songs and then make up your own strumming patterns to songs too. So that's kind of what we're going to do here today. It's going to be a little more casual, just hang out and talk about guitar, that kind of thing. But if you're at the spot and you're playing where you're trying to catch your strumming up to your chord changes, or if you've been playing for a while and you're just trying to work on your timing or get to where you can pick strumming patterns out of songs, this is going to be a great lesson for you.
Yeah. So make sure you jump in, say hey in the chat. I'll be trying my best to keep up with some of this stuff. If you have questions while we're going through stuff, get them in there. I'm going to try my best to write them down. And other than that, it's just going to be fun hanging out, talking about guitars.
So yeah, stick around for the end because it's going to be really progressive. If there's no new information for you in the first little area, then maybe there will be in the second one. Stuff that you can apply to your playing. Also, we're going to be giving away a t-shirt today at the end, as well as questions. If you have any questions at all, like Andrew said, he's going to be keeping track of them. So be thinking about those and submit them, I guess, anytime.
Yeah.
Keep them on his toes.
I will let you guys know that I'm not giving away this t-shirt, but a t-shirt that looks like this,
great.
just to clarify. We'll be doing that a little bit later before we get into questions, I think.
Awesome.
You want to explain the song?
I don't know. One thing. There is a PDF that you can download. It's kind of a cheat sheet for all the tips we've been, we're going to tell you today, because we don't want to just, again, throw a bunch of information at you or just, have a fun hangout. We want all the stuff we're going to be going over here today to be very practical for you to get better at guitar on a regular basis. So download that. There'll be tips for strumming technique, tip for developing your timing, and then another one for something called the constant strumming technique, which is kind of the key to figuring out strumming patterns and coming up with your own.
That's
patterns.
right. And if you do want to get the PDF, guitarlessons.com/live.
Yep.
You go there, you'll see it's very obvious where the PDF is. You can download that for free as well. Today, before we kind of get rolling, we're going to play through a song, and it's a song, it's kind of like in the style of a Hillsong song, if you guys are familiar with that.
Yep.
It's one of the jam tracks in the guitarlessons.com Academy. Nate's going to play the main strumming part, right?
Yep.
And I'm going to be playing kind of complementary, kind of more lead, a little bit more advanced stuff. I'm going to be playing some variants of octaves.
Cool. Yeah, and if you pay attention to what I'm doing, you don't have to do a lot to make your strumming sound good. I'm going to be doing mostly downstrokes for about half the time. The rest of the time, I have one basic strumming pattern that I'm doing there. So,
and I'll let you guys know before we get to the teaching portion, if you have your guitar around, bust it out, tune it up, because you'll definitely want to follow along to the teaching tips that Nate has a little bit.
Yeah, it's better to actually get them and implement them and
is.
start figuring them out now while it's fresh in your mind. So
yeah. All right, let us jump into the song.
Cool. Cool. So I started out with a really great guitar teacher. My first guitar teacher was my dad, and he's a really animated person, and I learned how to strum by watching him. So I had a really good start. I just saw it. I never had any troubles, but there were a few kind of aha moments throughout my guitar education over the years where I was like, this is going to take my strumming up to the next level in each one of these 3 areas that we're going to be talking about. And if you're struggling with this, with any one of these, don't worry about it. That's normal. It's something that's normal to go through, to struggle with either your timing, your technique, or trying to figure out strumming patterns. So just apply these tips that we're going to go through here and you will get better at it, no problem. So the first thing I want to talk about is just technique. And the best analogy I've ever heard about strumming technique, it was been from a guitar clinic that I went to from one of my favorite guitar players, acoustic guitar players. His name is Beppe Gambetta. And he was playing, and he's an Italian guy, so super thick accent, and he says, if you pretend like you have honey on your finger and a feather, honey and a feather, right? And just pretend like you're shaking it off, right? He said that's the perfect motion to think about when you're strumming. So just put your pick in your hand and then think about that. And that really ties in all of the tips we're going to cover after this. There's 5 tips. So all the rest of the tips are kind of summed up in that motion. So think about that as we go through this strumming lesson. And the second tip ties directly into that, and that is to make sure to relax. If you tense up when you're strumming, you could cause injury, number 1. Number 2, it can be hard to keep up with faster tempo songs. So if you're real tense and you have a song like the one we just played where you have some pretty fast downstrokes throughout the entire thing pretty much, it can be hard to keep up with that. So feather and honey, number 1. Tip number 2, stay relaxed. Tip number 3 is don't lock your wrist and just strum from your elbow. If I do that, at that tempo, I can do it, but it's going to wear me out super fast. I'm going to have a hard time keeping up throughout an entire song. So those 2 tips, tips number 2 and 3, come directly back to that first little analogy we did. So relax and don't lock your wrist. If you do that motion, you can't lock your wrist. It has to rotate, right? And be really flexible. So feather and honey, relax, don't lock your wrist. Those 2 things can tie together. Tip number 4 is to experiment with your pick grip. And there are a couple of reasons why. The number 1 reason is because a lot of guitar players kind of complain that, man, when I feel like I'm strumming a lot, I feel like my pick is going to fly out of my fingers, especially if you're just starting out or if you haven't done a lot of strumming, right? So a couple of things that you can do are just get used to making little micro adjustments with your fingers as, your strum. And that's just something you're going to have to learn how to do to hold onto the guitar pick as a guitar player. But once you make a conscious effort of that, it's going to be really easy for you once you put in some, time practicing that to keep that pick where it needs to be. Now, alternatively, what you can do is grab the pick with 2 fingers. And I find myself using both, just my index finger and my thumb and my index finger, middle finger and my thumb to hold onto the pick if I feel like I need some extra control. Or if I feel like the pick's sliding on, or if I need to dig into the strings and get more volume. That's something you're going to want to experiment with too. So just experiment with how you're holding the pick. If you're holding it with 1 finger and thumb, work on making those little micro adjustments. And Andrew uses his middle finger right there to kind of help position the pick and keep it in place. I brace my finger like that. And then, of course, the second one is experiment with the 2-finger grip too. Also, one thing I do, depending on what style of music I'm playing, what song I'm playing, is I can either angle the pick upward, like this, or I angle it downward. Just depending on what part I'm playing or what song I'm playing, whatever feels more natural to me at that given time. So that's tip number 4, is experiment with the way you're holding your pick and see if you can work out some kinks that way. Tip number 5, let's see, what is tip number 5? Mind your upstrokes. And a lot of guitar players have trouble getting through the strings when they're strumming with an upstroke, right? Number 1 reason for that is they dig too much of the pick into the strings, so it gets caught up in it, right? And if you can do that, you're going to be dropping picks, and you're going to be missing strums because you're not going to be able to get that pick through the strings. So the idea is to use just enough of the tip of the pick to get through the strings, and no more. So get it to where you're just barely missing the strings, and then dig in a little bit more, and then maybe a tiny bit more to get the volume you need. But if you're digging too much, it's going to be really hard to get get through those strings. And kind of the other half of this tip, mind your upstrokes, is you don't have to dig into all 6 strings when you're strumming, even a 6-string chord, like an opening major. When I make upstrokes, I'm generally only hitting the top 3 to 5 strings, so I don't feel like you have to hit all 6 strings with your upstrokes. So as I'm doing a strumming pattern, only hit the top 3 to 5, but still keeping all the rest of the tips in mind. That analogy, staying relaxed, not locking my wrist, minding my pick grip, making those little micro adjustments. And those 5 things, if you follow those, your technique is going to improve dramatically, and you're going to have to customize it to your own unique, anatomy and everything, and you'll find out what works for you if you go through this and be aware of these things.
Nice. Very good. We got some questions coming in, so I'm trying to grab them as they come in, but I think let's get through the teaching portion, and we'll do questions later.
Okay. The second area of strumming that I want to talk about is timing. And if you have ever shown up to a recording session, or if you recorded something on your own, or you show up to jam with your friends, and for the first time and you realize, wow, my timing is way off, that's probably a good thing because you've exposed a weakness in your playing that you need to work on. And there's nothing better than recording yourself and listening back to it to see if your timing is good or not. And one thing that I spend not a lot of time doing, but occasionally, like once every 2 months, I'll add this into my practice routine, is just working on my strumming timing and really dialing it in. And this one exercise is the only thing I do other than playing along with music, right, to develop my timing. All I do is I think about all those 5 tips. Well, you can. I've got them ingrained, but just get a metronome on. In this case, I'm going to pull up a drum machine here in a second. Just do quarter notes. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1. And then switch to 8 notes. 1, 2, and 3, and 4, and 1, and 2, and 3, and 4. And this seems easy when you don't have a metronome on. But then go back to quarter notes. But as soon as you put a metronome on, it's going to really expose how good or bad your timing is, especially when you transition to that different note value. And what you can do is just go back and forth between quarter notes and then 8th notes, and then you can even add 8th note triplets. And this is where the serious practice really comes in. You can tell if your timing's really good because 8th note triplets are just 3 evenly spaced notes per beat. So you go from quarter notes 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 8 notes, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and triplets. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, back to 8s, back to quarters. And that simple exercise will help you so much in your musicianship, not only your rhythm guitar playing, but your lead guitar playing, and even like I was drumming on a table the other day along to a song at a coffee shop I was in, and I noticed my timing was a lot better just because I've been working on this little exercise for the past few days. So you can start with quarters, go to 8ths, go to 8th note triplets, and then go to 16th notes, and work your way back down, and spend just as much time as necessary on each note value to where you feel like you're really locked in and you're good, then move on to the next one, then the next one, then work your way back down. Let's get the drum loop up for this, and I'll show you how to use this. And this is going to be at 80 beats per minute. And all it is a simple drum beat 4/4. You can do this along with any app that does drum beat, or if you have a DAW that you record with. Do you have that, Andrew?
Yes, I do. Ready?
Yep. 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. Think about all the tips for strumming as we do this. Make sure you're relaxed. 1, and move on to 8 notes. 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, and 4, and 1, and 2, and 3, and 4. And then when you're ready, you can go on to triplets. 1, 2, 3, and 4. Feel good there. Move back to 8s. Back to quarters. Good? Yep. And you can even go farther, throwing 16th notes, and if you're more advanced, do 16th note triplets, 6 strums per beat, right? It just depends. This, I think, benefits pretty much everybody, unless you're a professional musician out there working all the time and you've already developed your strumming quite a bit. So something I do on a regular basis. The fourth area I want to talk about is something called the constant strumming technique, and that's just kind of a concept that helps you develop your strumming and just your abilities to think about strumming to where you can figure out your favorite strumming patterns that you hear in songs and then come up with your own strumming patterns for playing with friends or whatever on the fly. And the basic idea is to keep your strumming hand going constantly, even if you don't dig into the strings. And I have 4 strumming patterns to help you kind of apply the technique tips, work on your timing, and then apply this concept of the constant strumming pattern to your playing. So the first one is just all downstrokes on quarter notes. So if you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. Now you notice I'm doing upstrokes every time I do a downstroke right after, just constantly. But I'm not digging into the strings, and that's really the heart of the constant strumming technique. Keep that going constantly, down, up, down, up, down, up, down, up, even if you don't dig into the strings on any particular down or upstroke. So that's the first one. Just take some time. All downstrokes with quarter notes. 1, 2, 3, 4. And more than anything on this one, just the concept of the constant strumming technique, and then thinking about your strumming technique and timing in general is good. Now, the second strumming pattern is just all upstrokes. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. And I'm keeping my strumming going constantly, up, down, up, down, up, down, up, down, but I'm only digging in on the upstrokes. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. And so keep that constantly going, constant strumming technique, right? And the thing to work on here is to mind your upstrokes, that tip. Don't dig too much of the pick into the strings. And make sure you don't have to hit all 6 strings with your upstrokes. So that would be like step number 2 to getting this down. Step number 3, or the third strumming pattern, is just alternating straight down and upstrokes with 8th notes. So hitting every single down and every single up. So 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. And you can take this as slowly or as fast as you need to, depending on your skill level. It's totally fine. If you need to slow this way down to work on your technique and timing, that's totally fine. But that's constant strumming technique, and you're digging in for every down and every upstroke. Now, where the power of this concept comes in is with strumming pattern number 4, and that's where you start to leave out either downstrokes on numbers, like on 1, 2, 3, or 4, or you leave out upstrokes on the and. So 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. And you can leave out any one of those numbers or any one of those ands on the downs or ups to create a unique strumming pattern. And strumming pattern number 4 simply leaves out the downstroke on beat 2. So if you had 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and I'm sure you've heard this in every CCR song out there. But the idea here is to get to where you can leave out, for example, that downstroke on the 2, and then pick another random number or and to leave out. What you're going to do is start to build kind of a Rolodex of standard, very important guitar strumming patterns. And once you start to connect the dots and learn more and more of these, you're going to get to where you can leave out any and or any number and make up a strumming pattern on your own to suit whatever song you're playing over. Or when you hear a song, you're going to be building those pathways in your brain to get to where you can recognize, oh, I recognize that strumming pattern. That's leaving out the 2 on, the downstroke on the 2. So that is the heart behind this. So you can work on your technique and your timing along with these 4 strumming patterns and work on just making up your own strumming patterns. And once you get it a couple down, they're going to start to fall a lot faster. And once you build those initial pathways in your brain to where you can leave out any of the numbers or the ands, it's going to be a lot easier for you to figure out strumming patterns and then make up your own on the fly. Cool.
Now, before we move on, is that it for your teaching portion?
That's my spiel. I'm sticking to it.
Perfect. A clarifying question before we go through. Gary wants to know about strumming triplets. So he's asking, like, how do you strum triplets? And then he followed up with that, which was, what's the up-down pattern when you're strumming triplets? Do you mind explaining that a bit?
Yeah, anytime you have an odd number, or I guess it would be a prime number, except for 1, because you can, I guess, yeah, even on 1. Because if you're strumming down, up to quarter notes, you're alternating down and up strokes on the beat, right? So you move to 3, that's a prime number as well, or odd number. You're going to have 3 strums per beat. So you have down, down, and the next beat has up, down, up. So you alternate on every beat, you alternate what type of stroke you start with. So on beat 1, you start with a down, up, down. Beat 2, you have up, down, up. Beat 3, you have down, up, down. Beat 4, you have up, down, up. So it's not this, it's not. That's 16 notes leaving out. That's playing 16, 8 notes. So 1 E and a 2 E and a 3 E and a 4 E. That's not 3 evenly spaced notes. Triplets are when you're taking the distance in one beat and sticking 3 notes evenly spaced in them. And that sounds like this. Triple, triple, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. And one really cool way to kind of solidify this in your brain is the app Tempo. It's a metronome app for, I think it's for Apple and Android. Okay. Anyway, the name of the app is Tempo. It has a thing where, like, say you set a click at 80 beats per minute. There's an option on there to where you can say, okay, now I want triplets to be the subdivision. So it'll be like this. One, 2, 3, 4. And that'll let you know really quick if you're hitting triplets right or not. That's probably the best way. I use that to work on my shuffle feel a lot. So
nice. Okay, are we ready then to jump into questions?
Yeah, I think so. Mm-hmm.
So before we do that, I think we should give away a t-shirt.
Okay.
So if you guys want a t-shirt like the one I'm wearing for free, we're only giving away one. What you got to do is you got to write Savage in chat.
Oh, Lord.
So if everybody who wants a chance at winning the shirt writes Savage in chat, and then in a couple minutes, I'm going to pick one person randomly, and then I'll contact you, and we'll get all your shipping info, and we'll send that out to you. So it looks like we already got Matt, the guy sitting next to us, is already saying Savage. So everybody who says Savage, go for it, spam it in the chat, and then maybe we'll answer one question, and then I will pick somebody.
Okay,
randomly.
cool. Yeah, it's funny when your name starts becoming a colloquialism.
I like it.
In pop culture.
I like it.
Okay.
People think it's fake.
Funny.
People think it's a fake name.
They do. They think it changed it.
Yeah, I love it. You have the best name of anyone I've met. Okay, so the first question, and I saw this asked a few times, and I think this is a great one. How do you change chords while you're doing your strumming?
First of all, step 1. Get the chord shapes down that you're trying to change between very well first. If you're still doing one finger at a time, then I would say you don't know those chords well enough to start trying to change between them. Get those chords down to where you can go to them right away. So, for example, if you're trying to change between a G and a C, you need to have those down to where you can go to them on their own. And then I wouldn't even worry about strumming. I would just work on changing between chords, just like G to a C. And that may take a few days, it may take a few weeks for you, that's fine. But what you're doing is dividing the challenge. You're segregating the challenge of changing between chords from strumming. So you're only worrying about one thing, right? And always be thinking ahead about what chord is coming up next. Think about what that chord feels like. Think about what it looks like, and then make the change. And then once you can do that, then start trying to do your strumming. Keep it simple at first. Maybe just straight quarter notes, all downstrokes. That's kind of the next step. And then if you want, you can do a little bit more complex strumming patterns. So maybe all downstrokes still, maybe 8 notes. Now the problem here, the challenge here, is you have less time to make that change. You have the time between one strum to make that change, so it has to be quick. But you can use a metronome for that to start at a really slow tempo and then kind of work your way up. That's how it kind of goes through the process of being able to strum and switch chords at the same time.
Okay, cool. So we have a winner here.
Whoop.
Eric Morgan.
Oh, sweet.
Eric Morgan, you win a shirt like this. It's kind of tough to get in contact with you, so I need you to email me at hello@guitarlessons.com. Some of you guys might try and cheat and say you're Eric. You won't be, but I'll be able to tell. So Eric Morgan, please email us hello@guitarlessons.com, and I will get your shipping info and your size, and we'll send that out to you.
Cool, man.
Congratulations. Awesome. Man, we got tons of questions here. Yes, Mario, we have your question. Don't worry, we're going to get to it.
Cool.
Let's start right from the beginning then. So this one is from Lee Monty.
Hey, Lee.
Hi, have you got any tips for the pick spinning in your fingers when strumming?
Yep. I don't know if you, we mentioned that tip at the very first part of the teaching part of this lesson, but I'll go over it again. When you're strumming, that pick's going to want to fly around no matter what it's made of, no matter anything. So you have to get used to making little micro adjustments as you play. Andrew uses his second finger right here to kind of push the pick around and manipulate it. But you're just going to have to get used to doing that. I brace my finger right here, and I just make the micro adjustments like that. And you'll get used to it. It's going to take some conscious effort at first, but you will get used to it. Another thing, and I don't have to make micro adjustments nearly as much when I do this, is I use two fingers. A lot of people who flat pick or play bluegrass style music do that because there's a lot more control. And you have to dig into the strings on an acoustic guitar when you're playing that style of music to get volume. So that just provides a lot more control and a lot more stability. You're still going to have to make adjustments every now and then, but it's just something you're going to have to get used to as a guitar player. So
Nice, that's good. Now, a follow-up question to that, and a lot of people asking this, not using a pick.
Totally fine. It depends, complete personal preference, and it depends what style of music you're playing to. If you're playing bluegrass and flat picking stuff, you pretty much have to use a pick. I mean, you can't
nail the style.
I saw a guy play Guthrie Govan's, was it Waves?
Ooh,
all finger style.
I mean,
and that is
incredible.
A hardcore picking song, and it was great.
Yeah.
So it doesn't other than what style of music you're playing.
Yeah.
Personal preference. 100%.
It's gonna be a very different style and a very different sound no matter what. If you're gonna use your fingers to play stuff that's typically picked or vice versa. My personal opinion is that you should learn with a pick first, and then if you want to abandon the pick later. But there's tons of people out there that disagree and only ever use their fingers or only ever use a pick.
Now, if you are using your fingers, you can use just your thumb like this. Or you can just make the motion kind of like you're holding a pick. And I've seen a lot of people do that. And really there, nothing changes. You're just using the very end bits of your fingers right there and thumb to do the strumming instead of using a pick. So.
What is flat picking? Just a quick thing.
Flat picking is when you use a flat pick. That's where it comes from, to play things like. A lot of alternate picking going on, so down, up, down, up, down, up, down, up, down, up, that kind of thing with a plectrum or flat pick. That's it. Nice. It's usually more based in I don't want to say country, bluegrass, folky kind of stuff. Check out Doc Watson, Bebe Gambetta, those types of players.
Nice. Yeah. Next question here. This one's from Mario. Would like to know what Nate recommends for the thumb position on the fretting hand. I think we covered this in the last one.
We did.
It's
That's
worth
cool.
going over again, yeah.
It depends. The answer to every question on the guitar. If I'm playing a chord that uses like all 6 strings, I have my thumb on the back of the neck, just like proper, quote unquote, proper technique. My wrist isn't kinked too far one way or the other. But let's say I switch to a C chord. My thumb usually comes over to mute this low E string because I don't want it ringing out. Like, I can work on my aim, and as long as I don't hit it, I'm fine. But what happens if I accidentally hit it and I don't want that there? Well, having my thumb over here could really save me from having that low E string ring out. Same thing with the D chord. I usually mute the low E and A strings. That way, even if I hit them, it doesn't matter. So it depends on what you're playing. If I have a bar chord on, definitely back of the neck. Definitely try not to bend my wrist too far one way or the other. So it depends. And like if I'm playing a scale, thumb back of the neck. But if I'm doing a bend, 100% thumb over the neck.
Yeah, cool. Totally depends. It's awesome. Next question here. I saw this one asked a few times. How do you decide which strumming pattern is required for a particular song?
Listen to what else is going on in the song. A lot of times, the rhythm guitarist's job in the band is going to be to harmonize or, play chords to match or harmonize what the drummer is doing. So whatever he's doing on the hi-hat, or do something complementary to what the piano player is playing. But listen to the song and the flow of the song. Even the melody sometimes will dictate what sounds good with the song. So I would start with the drummer and then make sure you're not stepping on anybody else's toes. Make sure you're playing complementary to like what the piano player or another guitar player is playing. But sometimes if you have two guitar players, depending on the style of music, you're going to be playing the exact same thing the other guitar player is playing just to fatten things up. Sometimes that's not the case at all. Like what Andrew and I played earlier, he's doing octaves up here, right? I wasn't doing anything close to what he was doing. I was doing more just harmonizing what the drummer was doing. So it depends on the song.
Yeah, absolutely. What are the best shoes for playing guitar?
No shoes. No, I'm kidding. I tend to like to wear Nikes, but I don't get to wear them at a lot of gigs. So like runners, just because they're comfortable, but more times than not, I'll get stuck wearing something dressy or cowboy boots or something.
Yeah, cowboy boots. I was going to say cowboy boots. Depends on the gig.
Yep, for sure.
All shoes are the best. Next question here. This one's from Strapman. Sounds like a superhero. I kind of like that. That's good. Do you guys ever do more advanced lessons like this? Like, say, modal theory?
Yep. It's just a matter of scheduling it, really. Mm-hmm. It depends what's going on. We have tons of... What we do is we generally take one jam track from the GuitarLessons.com Academy members area, pick a topic that's interesting to the members there, and we just go with it.
Yeah. I would say with the more advanced topics, you might not see them as these public ones, just because we want to make sure that a lot of people get a lot out of them, and most people are kind of in the first stages of learning things like strumming and stuff like that. We do have stuff on modal playing and things like that in the GuitarLessons.com Academy, and we cover that stuff maybe a little bit more in depth in the live lessons there as well. So just so you know. Cool. On to the next one. This one, let's see here. I apply these okay, this is actually a great question. Sometimes it's hard for me to read. Can I apply all these techniques to an electric guitar?
100%.
Yeah.
You probably have to lighten up on your touch a little bit because most guitars come with like 9 or 10 gauge strings. Most acoustic guitars come with at least 12 gauge strings. So if you lighten up on your strumming, it's probably going to be the only really thing that you really have to change or think about. Because if you hit it as hard as I'm playing this acoustic, it might make the notes go sharp or not just sound as good. So 100%, like fundamental guitar strumming technique is pretty much the same for electric and acoustic.
Cool. Yeah. Now, before we move on to more questions, we don't have a ton of time left, but I want to make a recommendation to you guys. Every single week, I go through all the new releases of music that come out, and I try and find cool stuff, guitar-related stuff, music that I like listening to. And you guys all need to go listen to the new John Mayer stuff. It's a little bit more on the poppy, folky side, but there's tons of good guitar playing in it. It's called The Search for Everything, I think. And there's a song on there called Helpless. You should all listen to it. It's very cool, and it's very rhythmic. It's very interesting, and it's all on rhythmic on an electric guitar.
Cool.
It's really worth listening to. So if you guys can, it's, I think, streaming for free on Spotify, if you guys are Spotify people.
Cool, yeah, and that's something we kind of want to do every week is just have a guitar-oriented album of the week for you guys to check out. And hopefully you can share them with us in the comments too, because we are always looking for new things to listen to as far as guitar stuff goes.
Absolutely.
Guitar nerd stuff.
Absolutely. No, you got it. So make sure you guys go check that out. Okay, next question here. This is a good one. Thinking about strumming patterns and chords at the same time, how long does it take to get as good as you are?
I've seen people as good as me within a year, as far as rhythm guitar, for sure. Yeah,
I think
it depends.
It totally depends. It depends on the amount of time you're going to spend, and I think more than anything, it's that short, focused, consistent practice time.
Yeah.
If you can do 10 minutes in the morning, 10 minutes at night, every single day, I mean, you will fly through that stuff. It's all about getting it committed to muscle memory. And I think that a lot of people seem to think that comes from like big long chunks, like spend 4 hours in one day and then take a few days off. And it really doesn't. It's actually coming from like the daily in and out, small, short, focused practice time. That's the best way to do it.
And I haven't made any like quantum leaps in my strumming in years and years and years. Like, I'll have to work on a new strumming pattern or something for a song that's more complex than average or than usual. But like, I mean, it's all the same fundamental things that you've just applied to new songs, right?
Yeah. Next question here from AJ. Is down, down, up, down, up the most common strumming pattern out there?
If it's not the most common one, it's probably one of the top 5, I would think.
For sure.
Yeah.
It's kind of it's not that hard to do, and it's very musical, and you can almost fit it anywhere.
All that is, it's a constant strumming technique with down, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. And so you're leaving out some downs and ups on that.
Yeah, exactly. This is a good one. Nate loves to talk about picks.
I do.
So
I have a
it's
small obsession.
Yeah, I know. I love it. Every time that I come into work, Nate's like, "Oh, check out this cool pick. I got these cool picks." Is there any particular pick that you recommend?
It depends what kind of music you're playing.
Yeah.
I'll go through just a few. We were talking about earlier. I like the Dunlop prime tones for something that you can get for not too expensive and at most like local music stores. I like those. If you don't like really thick picks, you might want to go with something else. But Dunlop prime tones, they come in a lot of different shapes and thicknesses.
Yeah.
And they are a little bit more expensive, but they're not obnoxious or anything. I think they're like $3.
One of my favorite, I love the prime tones for, this is a personal thing, but for acoustic, but I find that the Altex, I think does Dunlop make the Altex?
They
yellow
do, and they're
clear.
made of the same material.
Oh.
Yep.
Well, there you go. I find the really pointy picks are awesome for like more lead guitar stuff.
Yep.
I play electric guitar.
I do tend to use pointy picks too for electric. So
my favorite picks though, chicken picks. They're awesome. They're really thick, but they're just their own thing. Look into them. Chicken picks is what they're called.
Pollo picks.
Pollo picks?
Pollo picks.
Oh no. Oh man. You tested my Spanish knowledge there. That was good. My 1 semester of Spanish.
Oh, I didn't know that. No, they would have taken French.
This is a good one. This is another one from AJ. When you're playing fingerstyle, do you plant your pinky on the guitar for more stability or let your hand float around for more power?
It doesn't matter. I don't think... If I need to dig in, I put my wrist on kind of the bridge / body of the guitar. I just get more leverage.
Now, one is considered the classical method, and one is kind of like the folk method or something like that.
If I don't need a lot of volume, I just do classical because I took classical guitar in college, so that's the way I learned. My dad is a folk style, which means his pinky is on the body of the guitar. And he does that. He gets more volume that way as well. It's essentially the same thing as me doing this. This is a different way of doing it. But it doesn't matter. One of my favorite acoustic players who does a lot of fingerstyle stuff, he does the same thing. And he's always planted. He doesn't do classical at all. But same thing for like hybrid picking. It doesn't matter. It's just whatever you're comfortable with.
Okay, we got one last question here. There's tons more coming in, guys. I'm sorry we can't get to all of them. We'd love to, but we just can't do it. We don't have enough time. So this last one is from Crystal Toomey. She says, "Hi guys."
Hey.
Hi. Any advice on how to practice chords without twisting the guitar towards me to see what I'm doing? Do I just get used to the feel instead of seeing it?
You just have to be really disciplined about it, because I know the urge as a beginner is going to want to be to do like this, right?
You're going to ruin your back in like a year of that.
Yeah, but just like I'm saying, this is how I'll normally play guitar if I'm being really conscious of my posture. So I would say use your eyes more than your neck if you can, because doing like this is going to hurt after a while too. So I'll try that, or even standing up with a strap might be a good option for you depending on what you like. That might help because it'd be more up here. It's easier to just kind of turn your head. But yeah, really try to avoid the temptation of doing like this just because it's going to hurt after a while. Like, that just hurt my back right now. I have a bad back.
Oh. Be careful. Cool. Awesome. So that's going to be it for questions, guys. Thank you so much. I will just mention the next lesson that we do like this because we want to keep doing this. So if you guys have suggestions on things we can do better, things you want us to talk about, you can email us at hello@guitarlessons.com. Let us know. Next week on Tuesday, 4 p.m. Pacific, 7 p.m. Eastern, we're going to be doing the same thing. We're going to be talking about learning the fretboard. So learning the notes on the guitar, that one's going to be really fun. Cool. And also, I'll just let you guys know, in the next little bit, we're going to be doing, releasing another lesson on our YouTube channel, and it's how to find the key of a song. That one's coming up soon. And that one is one that I know people have been asking for a long, long time. It's a really, really, really good lesson. So I'm really looking forward to that one too.
All right, guys, if you found this helpful, you should check out the Ultimate Guitar Toolbox. It's just a collection of 50 of my step-by-step lessons that cover like a wide range of kind of problem areas that a lot of guitarists deal with, and it kind of solves those through musical applications and fun jam tracks and, you know, step-by-step lessons. So check that out. You can find that at guitarlessons.com/toolbox.
That's exactly the one. Yeah, make sure you go check it out.
Cool. Remember, set some goals, be consistent with your practice, and you can play the guitar how you want to. We'll see you later.
See ya.